of the economy. The fuel prices is biting hard. But look around, let's just thank God together that you are better off. Listen to them in Kenya, in other African countries, what they are going through. We will not look back. We will continue to find ways to ameliorate the suffering of the vulnerable.
Let me start from the very beginning. Last Friday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu visited Bayelsa State, and while he was there, he urged Nigerians to appreciate that petrol remains cheaper locally than in countries like Kenya, even as he acknowledged prevailing economic hardship and promised relief measures. That was the message. Be grateful. Look at Kenya. Your fuel is cheaper. Now, on the surface, maybe that sounds reasonable. But here is the problem, and this is where the story gets devastating. Just days before that speech, the World Bank dropped a report, not a rumor, not a social media post, a full official internationally peer-reviewed economic report. And what did that report say? Nigeria's poverty rate climbed to 63% in 2025, up from 56% in 2023, leaving roughly 140 million people below the poverty line. 140 million people. Let me put that in perspective for you. That is more than the entire population of Russia. It is more than the combined population of United Kingdom, France, and Spain. And they are all living in poverty, right here in Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa. And the cruelest part is this. The rise occurred despite a noticeable decline in inflation. Headline inflation dropped from 34.8% in December to 15.1% in December 2025. Food inflation also declined from 39.8% to 10.8% within the same period. So inflation was coming down, the government was celebrating, the macroeconomic charts were looking better, but the people, the ordinary Nigerians, buying tomatoes in Onitsha market, the Kano trader paying rent, the Lagos bus driver feeding 3 children, they were still sinking. Because inflation came down, but their salaries never went up. The World Bank stated clearly household incomes have not grown fast enough to offset still elevated inflation, and poverty has yet to decline. That is the World Bank saying, in plain English, the reforms are not reaching the people. Atiku hit back in a statement issued by his senior special assistant on public communication, Frank Shoaibu, accusing the president of presenting a misleading and a gravely distorted picture of the economic hardship facing ordinary Nigerians. He didn't just say Tinubu was wrong. He pulled out numbers and let those numbers do the damage. Atiku said, and I quote, "It is both curious and troubling that the president would isolate fuel prices as a metric of economic comfort, while ignoring the far more critical indicators of purchasing power, income levels, and cost of living. This selective reasoning betrays either a fundamental misunderstanding of economic realities or deliberate attempt to deflect from policy failures." Read that again. Either the president does not understand, or the president knows exactly what he's doing and chose to mislead anyway. Those are the only 2 options Atiku is putting on the table, and both of them are damning. But then Atiku landed the blow that echoed across every WhatsApp group in Nigeria. He said, Kenya's GDP per capita is nearly double that of Nigeria. And the minimum wage earner in Nairobi takes home the equivalent of about 170,000, more than twice Nigeria's 70,000. In effect, While a Kenyan earns more and pays more, a Nigerian earns far less and is forced to survive under crushing economic pressure. This is the reality the president chose to ignore. So yes, Tinubu was technically correct. Fuel in Nigeria is cheaper than in Kenya, but a worker in Nairobi earns 170,000 minimum. A worker in Nigeria earns 70,000 minimum. The Kenya pays more for fuel, but they have more than double the income to absorb it. The Nigerian pay less for fuel, but they are already broken before they get to the filling station. Now tell me, who is actually suffering more? Who? This is not a comparison, this is a contradiction, and it is happening against the backdrop of a World Bank report that just told the world that 63 out of every 100 Nigerians are living in poverty. 63%. The World Bank's lead economist for Nigeria, Fisher Hale, warned that although inflation has declined, it still risks eroding real economic incomes and slowing welfare gains, emphasizing that price stability is critical to improving living conditions, and that reducing poverty depends not just on growth, but growth that generates jobs and raises incomes, particularly for vulnerable populations. Job incomes. Vulnerable population. These are not abstract words. These are people in Mushi who can't afford 2 meals a day. These are the civil servants in Maiduguri spending more than half their salary on transport. These are the farmers in Benue who have watched the cost of their fertilizer crush every profit margin they have ever had. They don't need fuel price comparison with Nairobi. They need relief. Real, tangible, structural relief. Shaibu, speaking for Atiku, also criticized Nigeria's rigid single-tier national minimum wage, contrasting it with Kenya's tiered wage structure that adjusts pay to reflect cost of living differences across cities and regions. Argued that Nigeria's failure to account for urban cost disparities compounds the economic burden on millions of Nigerians. The point is crucial, and it often gets lost in the political noise. A 70,000 naira salary in Lagos is not the same as 70,000 salary in rural local government. The cost of living in Lagos will eat that salary before the month is half finished. Nigeria has one flat number for the whole country, and that number is already an insult before the rent enters the conversation. Atiku's statement concluded with a warning that cuts right to the heart of this presidency. A government that relies on selective comparison while its citizens grapple with rising poverty, inflation, and declining living standards risks appearing not only out of touch, but indifferent. Nigerians are not asking for comparison, they are demanding for relief. Not out of touch, not indifferent. Both. And the World Bank, not Atiku, not PDP, not any opposition politician, the World Bank, an institution that has no reason to play partisan politics in Nigeria, confirmed this week that things get worse under this administration. Poverty rose from 56% in 2023 to 61% in 2024, then climbed again to 63% in 2025. Every single year of this Tinubu administration, the poverty numbers has gone up every single year. The 2027 conversation is starting early, and is starting with a question that no comparison to Kenya can answer. Why, in the most oil-rich African country, are there 140 million people poor? Drop your comments in the comments. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and we will see you in the next one. This is Nigeria, and we are watching.